Good afternoon and welcome to Search for Truth Reality. I've got another Cold War story for you. We'll call this one Practical Jokes and Jokers. There's one day we were in the field and our military police unit had to go from point A to point B. Our platoon sergeant, Sergeant God, our illustrious Sergeant God, had told us beforehand, don't turn on the lights until I tell you so. I'm like, okay, no problem with that. So here comes a communique over the radio. Sergeant God saying, okay, turn on your lights. And I have a little toggle switch in the Jeep. Hit that toggle switch, which illuminates the little marble, a little blue light on the vehicle, so we can go, I don't know what, escort whatever convoy we're going to do that day. Problem was on this time is that as soon as I threw the switch, behind me to my right is the spare tire on my truck, and sequestered away behind that thing was a grenade simulator that Sergeant God, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to wire to my blue light. So as soon as I threw that switch, it went bang. Everybody got a nice laugh out of that. So some time goes by, we get out of the field, we check in our vehicles, we get all our stuff squared away, and I get a little visit by an E5 sergeant who I didn't particularly trust or like. And for some reason I couldn't figure out why he was being so nice. He came to my door, he says, I got something for you. And close the door. All right, close the door. And he produces this canister. It's an olive drab in color canister. It's a two-part thing that's kind of sleeved together with a cap on it. You pull it off and it's got a little goodie inside. Well, I didn't know what the goodie was. In fact, I'd never even seen one of these little canisters before. And he hands it to me. And the first thing that impressed me is that it was heavy. And he says, do you know what that is? I'm like, no. You got to understand, too, here's just kind of a little side note, is that some of the guys we served with were Vietnam vets, and some of these clowns actually carried live frag grenades to the field. So my first thought was that maybe this is a frag grenade, but actually the diameter of the container wasn't wide enough to be a frag, so thank God for that. So I don't know what this guy was implying. So he goes, open it. So I open it up, I look at it, I'm like, okay, it's not a frag, I get it. He goes, do you know what that is? I'm like, yes. Do you know what to do with it? I've got a pretty good idea. So I put it in the canister and I tucked it away in my wall locker, and he went on his way. I mean, that thing sat in there for, I don't know, weeks, months. I don't know how long I had it before I figured out the right time to do something with it. In the military, we have this thing called preventive maintenance and checks that we perform on all of our vehicles. And while we're in garrison, it's like a daily thing. We would march down to the motor pool and we'd go through this redundant set of checks. I mean, every day. It was just ridiculous the number of times we did this on these stupid Jeeps. How much paper we were generating on a daily basis was just insane. So anyway, so we're doing our PMCS checks, and on this particular day, I had sunny day, one of the rare sunny days we had in Germany. I actually had I had this thing tucked away in my pocket, and I pulled over a couple of guys in the Connex. That's where we have there's like grease and oil and all that stuff for our vehicles. And I pulled it, let me show you something. And I showed it to him, and I explained the story I just explained to you, and his eyes got about this big, and he became rather zealous about using it immediately. And I was a little nervous about it because honestly, I felt a little uncomfortable about doing a practical joke, especially on somebody who has, rank on you by about four pay grades higher. So anyhow, we're out on the parking lot. We're out in the blazing sun that day, and we finished up all of our checks, and we're just goofing off, and we go marching down to where they have all the the mechanic pits, where they these concrete steps that go into this narrow pit so you can get under the vehicles and work on them. Well, that's where Sergeant God was, and I'm sitting there I'm just having second thoughts about that. And the PFC, I forget his name, he says, here, let me do it. And he grabs it, and I'm just standing up and I'm watching, like, oh my God, here we go. So he pulls the pin on this thing, and he rolls it into the pit. He comes running back to me. This thing goes off. Now you have to understand that I have never seen a smoke grenade go off up close. Now, can you imagine, and for those of you who've used these things, you know how dense the smoke is. Now put that in a really small confined space and imagine what it must have been like in that narrow in that narrow pit with this thing spewing this huge cloud of red dense smoke. So he pops this thing out, the smoke starts coming out. The next thing we hear is a whole string of profanity, and of course you've heavy platoon, you know the drill, you know what that sounds like, but it's just nonstop, a lot of screaming, a lot of cursing. And here comes Sergeant God stopping out into the sun, and he's just, you know, just full of piss and vinegar and screaming and cursing, and he sees us, he sees me standing there, and he immediately stops. Sergeant, I shared this story with you when I visited you in Florida, and I don't think that you exactly recall what happened that day, but that's what happened. I mean, I was laughing so hard, I had tears rolling down my face, but what I thought was really amazing is that you didn't seek any further retribution after that, nor did I see another practical joke coming my way for the rest of my tour of duty. So anyhow, I guess there's a whole other set of rules that humanity runs by when you're in the military, and I guess even practical jokes have a certain set of unwritten rules. Anyhow, that was the first and the last practical joke that I'd ever played, actually, outside of some of the tame stuff I did in high school. But you know what, since then I choose not to engage in practical jokes. So I think, you know, it really doesn't build a lasting positive relationship with your friends, because now they'll always be on guard, not knowing, you know, what you're going to do next. I prefer to keep things on the up and up. So that's my story on practical jokes and jokers. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, click like, please post a comment, share on social media. If you're 4th Platoon, waiting to hear your stories too, guys. Come on. I'm sure there's some things that you remember that I've probably totally forgotten, and I would love to see your stories as well. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you guys next time.